Why don't we, well, you know what, I'll go out. I need to move that rover anyway, so why don't we get out to that rover? But before we do that, well, I have 256.3 science thanks to my efforts over the last couple of streams, so I'm going to go and pick up another node here. And the one I be looking at is, let's see, I'm looking at one of these two. We got heavier rocketry. Heavier rocketry gives us some bigger engines, a Cheetah engine, Kodiak engine, fuel flats, a smart part brake, a lot of really useful engine, monster SRB, and I'm also looking at advanced fuel systems for a whole stack of 2.5 meter parts and a handful of also, I believe, 3.5 meter parts hiding in here. Big, oh yeah, and I like these radial ones. I love these angly radial tank. So actually, I think I'm going to pick up that one. I think that's going to let me put a little bit more spice into my lifters. So that has been spent. And then what I think I'm going to do is actually go take a look at that rover, and we'll move it. And then we'll launch somebody into space. We'll go pick up Steve around the moon. We'll come back. We'll pick up Jeb. That'll keep us busy for a little while. So here's our little rover. This rover is collecting seismic scans. It takes a little while to collect seismic scans. I can't remember exactly what it does do, but it is a number of days. And right now it's parked in the deserts. And in case you think I drove this thing like some monstrous distance, I did not. What I did is, actually it's parked in Highlands right now. This is the desert airfield. So I just launched it from the desert airfield, got deserts, then I moved it to the Highlands. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move it to the, and I hope it's, I don't know, electricity might be an issue. Maybe we should just get the sun to come up just a little bit more. The sun should be rising. Let's get the sun up. Come on, Mr. Sun, I want to charge up my solar panels before I start driving. There we go, that'll help. And we're going to go over to the mountains that are just over here. And thanks to SCANsat, I actually have myself, where's that one? There we are. A little biome map. Zoom in here a little bit. And we have ourselves some mountains that are just right here towards the, which way's that way? That way would be east. So let's go do that. So we should. Are the brakes on? Haha. Oh, very tricky. Okay, here we go. There we go. So it's a simple little rover. Oh, it's also collecting pressure scans, I can see. Oh, I noticed it's off. Oh, okay. We'll collect a pressure scan on our way there. And we are heading eastward, and hopefully this won't take too long. All right. Thank you, Krafta, and I'm not going to try and pronounce the rest of that. Krafta says, I have the best KSP tutorials. Thank you. I don't know if they're the best, but I'm proud of them. Whoa, east. East is more this way. Kind of going southeast, actually. All right. These little maps, I hate, you know, I love knowing pretty much where everything is. Let's see, should I risk doing a little time warping? It can get a little sketchy. Seems to be alright. If the terrain starts getting a little lumpier, well, looks like we got a hill coming up here. So yeah, for getting to other biomes on Kerbin, I don't see what's wrong with taking advantage of those alternate launch sites. Whoa. I always find time warping with the rover a little bit sketchy. Let's see, go a little bit more southwards. But I'm hoping this is mountains like right coming up here. That's still running. How's our electricity doing? I think we've lost our sunshine. So I'll have to keep an eye on the electricity. And once this starts running, I know I'm in the mountains. Time warp again. Come on. Pretty close. And then once it's done with this, I will just recover it. Okay, we got a bit of an uphill coming up here. Looking pretty close on the map. Okay. We will come over this crest and catch some more sun rays too, because I can see our electrical power going down. You know, one of the things, one of my, speaking of tutorials, that I get asked to do quite a bit is to do a rover tutorial. Which, number one is I don't know, I find rovers have limited utility when it comes to this game. But number two, I don't know if they're that big a deal. I mean, to build something like this certainly wasn't difficult, and to just put it, you know, to deploy it, you put a decoupler or a docking port on the top here, sling it underneath some sort of lander. There's lots of ways to deploy it, but I think the simplest is just to put a little docking port under there. Whoa, we're over the hill. Docking port on the top, sling it under a lander with bigger landing legs. It will fit under there just nicely. Land, drop it, boom. I mean, you can get more sophisticated, like building sky cranes and that kind of thing. Another really, really simple thing to do is to simply put a fuel tank on this thing, put a couple of radial thrusters on the side, and, oh, we are running. We're running. And make this itself into a lander. Just happens to have wheels on it instead of landing legs. You just land it, and then after that, you can just drive it around. Okay, so what are we collecting here? We're collecting, oh, that's the radiation scan. That's the one I'm interested in right there. We are collecting a seismic scan. It is going to take 14 days and 4 hours for it to do that. So clearly we're just going to leave this here. And then I don't think, sure, I shouldn't have closed that map. I do not think there are any other, no, I'm not going to drive. I've already done shores and water anyway, so I don't see any reason to keep this thing out here once this thing is done collecting what it's collecting. So back to the Space Center we go. We'll leave it to do its job. Need a rover tutorial. I start talking about rover tutorials and people are like, yes, make a rover tutorial. Someday I'll probably make a rover tutorial. The actual tutorials that are coming up next are space shuttle tutorials. Those are being requested a little while ago, so I got a whole little mini series of space shuttle tutorials coming up. But in the meantime, let's get going with this. So we're going to use the Terrier 1-A3, which is my most up-to-date crewed lifter. This is the one that actually brought up Jeb and Bill to the WKMSS, which is my Kerbin station. I think I need a checklist. So who's going to fly this thing? We're going to have to... It can house only 2 Kerbals. Valentina, have you been around the moon? She has come on, it should be able... Doesn't it tell you what her log is there? Is that all she's ever had is... Yes. Of course, Valentina was out of the game for a long period of time because of her injuries. She was our first Kerbal to be in orbit, and then, well, things went really, really badly for her, so she's never been really outside of low space around Kerbin. So we are definitely going to, well, yeah, Valentina is our person, is our pilot. I just want to check supplies and make sure food, water, oxygen. Oh yeah, we're all good. Anything. Now that I got a Kerbal in here. Pressure control's running. Scrubber is running. Do. Oh, by the way, I don't know, you might recall, this was a few streams ago, if I go configure the pod here, that suddenly a water recycler appeared on this vessel for absolutely no reason. And the reason is because an upgrade in the research and development gave us 3 things what we can configure with our pod, and it just by default by itself put in the water recycler. This thing does not need a water recycler. That's just a great big electricity hog. Okay, we're just gonna launch. We're gonna go. I don't see why not. Yeah, let's do it. Staging's all okay. That's for that. Yep, let's go. Oh, that's for a tourist contract. We're not doing that yet. Sometime. So yeah, let's just run our launch. So run launch into an 80-kilometer orbit. Let's do it. We're off. Of course, I'm using KOS for my launch. This thing also features an escape system. So if things go astray, we should be able to get Valentina back down to the surface. But given the fact the last time Valentina went into space, things went really, really badly when, well, it happened her capsule came down on the side of a mountain is really what happened. So this is Redemption, and that was a long time ago. Ooh, someone unhappy is saying his next project is colonizing the Joule system. Good luck. You know, the thing is, I never get much into interplanetary stuff because I think it's just the time piece of it. It takes so time to get there, and I always have just so much fun just hacking around and around Kerbin and the Moon and Minimus that my desires to go interplanetary always seem to kind of fizzle out. But I promise I will do, once we get this whole Minimus thing, I think that's probably the next logical step, is a crewed interplanetary mission. Not so sure about colonizing Joule, but at least something. Okay, just nerfed our thrust here a little bit. We all suck at this game, Cade. The only thing that happens is as you get better, you get braver, and you just make more colossal blunders. They just get more... you just get yourself into bigger trouble. The more you learn, the more trouble you get into. As it should be. Alright, we're going to lock onto the prograde vector at 40 kilometers. Yep. Nothing magical about waiting for 40 kilometers. It's just the number I stuck in the script, and it seems to work for me. Alright, and then we're going to lose the fairing here. Boom. I do like this script, this vessel. I like the roundy capsules. I like lots of greebly dooby-dads all stuck in there. I like the way this one came out. But I do want to, at some point, build something that's a little more substantial, that can carry more Kerbals, that's designed to stay into space. That's going to be the plan for it. So it won't be something that's meant to come back down to the atmosphere. And then I can use it to go between stations, right? That's I must have hit my target apoapsis. I did. I can use it to go between stations. So right now I only have the one station around Kerbin. My next goal is to put a station around Minimus. Eventually I want to put a station in and around the Moon, and have some couple of runabouts that just kind of run between those. I like when you start putting in sort of permanent space infrastructure, as it were. Okay. Not too far from our circularization here. All right. Yeah, John. Actually, that's the main thing. John brings up the good point. John says that by the time I'm ready to go interplanetary, there's always a game update. That happens to me all the time, and then I'm really, really tempted to just want to start over on the major updates because they always add really cool, neat things. Speaking of which, 1.12 is actually sounding like it's coming out pretty soon. And getting ready for the 10th anniversary of this game. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years for this game. But I won't abandon this stream when 1.12 comes out. I'll just try and wiggle in the 1.12 features into this one. Alright, we are almost ready. And boink, there we go. Okay. And program has completed. Actually, we'll tuck this away because we're going to be doing a burn a little bit. Put this onto the normal vector. Valentina, only being level 1, doesn't have the ability to lock onto normal vectors automatically. Alright, let's plot our course out towards the moon. Oh, let's lose everything here. Alright. Moon. Set as a target. Is it about 8:55? There we go. Focus our view. And oh, I gotta put capsules back on because there is our target here. Set Steven here as a target. Now the thing to notice about Steven is it's a little bit inclined. That's not a big deal, but be really careful. It's going around in a retrograde direction. So I definitely want to be coming in on this side of the moon. The last thing you want to do is suddenly get there and find yourself having to make a 180-degree inclination change. Oh, I can tell I'm going to need a little bit more prograde to get this to work. There we go. And by the way, whenever I say the words, the last thing you want to do is do this, I can guarantee you I've done that. That's the only difference between someone who is experienced with this game and someone who isn't, is they just have had more opportunities to make mistakes. Alright, just getting it so that our periapsis is right here. John is saying, obviously, Steven launched himself into a free return trajectory, though somehow managed to mess that up. If you want to do a free return trajectory, you typically would want to come around retrograde because it brings down your periapsis relative to Kerbin. Not that that's what we'll be doing. Okay, I think that's good. I think we're just going to do this right here. We'll just run our script here. Actually, let's get to the node first, then run our script. There we go. A 1 minute and 14 second burn. It's not a huge thrust to weight on this vessel, but once you're in orbit, you don't really need the thrust to weight. In fact, once even you're in the higher part of the atmosphere, you don't necessarily need that much thrust to weight. Oh, 3.2 credits from the mountains for that radiation scan, and a temperature scan came from the mountains too. I didn't even know I was doing that. Should really look. Is everything on? This is the lovely thing here with Kerbalism. You can, where's that Seismic Rover? You can actually turn things on and off from the menus here. Yep, everything's on. Let's get back on Val. I really should be paying some attention. There we go. All right. And yes, Apollo did go around retrograde. That's kind of an orbit that Apollo would have, well, not as high as that one is, I'm sure, but Steven is in a retrograde orbit, just like Apollo used to do, because it would facilitate your ride back home in case things went wrong, which of course they did. On at least one mission. Oh wait, I can time warp this. Let's do that. Kerbalism is an amazing mod. I love it. Like, even if you don't want the life support and the radiation belts and all that kind of stuff, even if that kind of thing makes you a little bit nervous, giving you that many more ways to kill your Kerbals, just for the science alone, I think Kerbalism is fantastic. Alright, how did this burn come out? You know what? We have a bit of RCS. Why don't we use that to kind of push this out? There we go. That's better. Finished a little bit short. And one of the advantages of using RCS rather than the engine is that you have unlimited ignitions, because they're not really ignitions with the RCS ports. They'll never wear out, but this engine has limited ignition, so if you can get away with using RCS rather than the engines, it's usually a good plan. Okay, we need a little bit of a correction. Little bit towards the south here. Oops, that's obviously way too small. There we go. Oh, and that's even getting, I like this, even as I go towards the south, I'm actually even matching, semi-matching. We're really lucky with the way this is coming out. We're not going to have to make too much of an inclination change, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's see. Am I at a good spot for this? Find a, okay, and we'll pop this down. And a good indicator, by the way, you want your periapsis just to touch the orbit, and a good indicator that that is kind of happening, that you're in the right spot this way, is if the ascending or descending node is matching up with the periapsis. Now I do think I have to come radially one way. I don't know which way though. I always get this one backwards. Well, I guess radially in. That makes sense. There, and maybe a little up, just looking at the ascending node there. There we go. 5.7 meter per second burn for that correction. That's coming up in just a couple of hours.